Good morning, everybody. It's Brick here, Brick House Garage. Thanks for coming back. If you're first time here, make sure you subscribe. Now that's over with. Today, I didn't get a video out last week because I was super sick, and so pretty much the only thing I got done last week was I broke Amy's ATV. To kind of show you how my brain works and other mechanics' brains work, and we'll go from there. I'm just gonna start gathering up some tools, so I'll talk you through the process while I'm doing that. Let's get in here. Shop's a mess as per usual. All right, so this is what we're working on. It's a 2022 Coleman 6500, which you'd find at like Tractor Supply. So battery for it. What we have is a no crank, no start. Now we're gonna pop the seat off. I got a battery tray right here. Okay, so down in here is the battery. All right, so let's talk about the troubleshooting method. So what it is a methodical or systematic way of finding a fault in a system. So Matsumoto, she's a Japanese philosopher. He says, once you learn the way broadly, you see in all things. So when it comes to any type of system, there's really just 5 parts. Okay, so you have your power supply, you have your inputs, you have your outputs, you have your conductors and transmission medium. All right, so there's your 5 parts. All right, the way we troubleshoot this is we're going to start at the power supply always. All right, so if there's no power, right, whether it's hydraulic power, electrical power, or pneumatic power, then really nothing's going to work. All right, so what we'll do is we'll check the battery. When it comes to a starting system, really there's only a couple parts, right? So we have our ignition. All right, when you turn your ignition to run, that energizes the system. And then when you go to start, what's going to happen is your ignition is going to tell your starter solenoid, which is right here, this little guy right here, okay? It's gonna tell it to send power from the battery down to your starter. All right, so when you hear that click, that's that little solenoid closing and sending power directly to the starter, okay? So if you get no roundy rounds, right, that means that you don't have enough power to turn the starter, but you do have enough power to turn that solenoid. So, if you get the clickety click, you know that's not the case, right? So we can check off the ignition and the solenoid, right? So now it comes down to the starter or the battery. All right, so the starter's on the engine, right? It's underneath, it's not very accessible. So much like any other human, I'm gonna do the thing that's easier, and I'm gonna troubleshoot the battery. All right, so we're gonna grab, there's multiple different tools you can use to do this. All right, so we can use a multimeter, we can use a test light, or we can use what's called a battery tester. We can also just charge up the battery, okay? So most people start by just charging the battery and seeing if the battery's just low. This thing pretty much just goes down to the front of the property and back. We use it to take out trash and go down and see mom down at the front of the property. That's pretty much the majority of its life, is just up and down the driveway. So let's look at these meters and tools. All right, so we got, that's the Camaro. My camera wants to face the Camaro. Look at it. All right, so we got our multimeter. Okay, why it's called a multimeter? Because it can check the levels of multiple different things. So we have AC voltage, DC voltage. You can tell the difference between AC and DC is because think of air conditioning in your house. AC, right, is the little wavy line on top of the voltage, right? And DC is what's in your vehicle. So your DC battery system, right? So that's got the little road above the V. So, all right, this is millivoltage. And then we have ohms, and then we have just a continuity beep, okay? Pretty basic meter. All right, then we have a test light. All the test light's doing is seeing if there's power somewhere. So you hook the ground up and then you just start touching it in different places. It'd be really good if it wasn't the battery and we had to troubleshoot the ignition system. We could actually walk the power through the circuit and make sure it's getting to where it's supposed to go. And then we have a simple battery tester. It's from Top Don. It's I think it's around $20 on Amazon. And it's a real good way to just check the voltage and then push the button and see the health of the battery. Another tool that I use constantly out here, so the way I got that back is I have these little battery terminals. So this guy right here just connects to a regular M18 battery. So I hooked it to that and jumped it, so pretty suspicious of the battery. So what we'll do is we can take our meter. All right, and we're gonna look at the voltage of the battery. All right, so we're gonna set it to DC voltage. We're gonna put one probe, and highest potential gets the red lead, so negative gets the black lead, and then this will get the red lead. So we have 12.68 volts, okay? So if we have 12.68 volts, you figure it's got 12 volts. It should start, right? Wrong. All right. So just because we have 12 people show up to work doesn't mean they're going to do some work, okay? Your battery has an expected shelf life, okay? It's around 5 years, all right? Especially in a vehicle like this that just really doesn't get a chance to charge all the way up ever. It could be even less. All right, but this battery is about 5 years old. So we're gonna hook our negative up and then we're gonna hook our positive up. All right, and then our little tester is gonna come alive. It's gonna tell us that we have 12.6 volts, and then we're gonna push the test button. Okay, so if you see right there, it's flashing bad. When we hold the test button, okay, we're only putting out 0.1 volt, okay? So what that's telling me is that this battery has some dead cells in it, right? So 12 people are showing up to work, but they are totally out of energy. So it's a Friday at the end of the year. They've been killing themselves all week, and they just don't have it to do the job of turning that starter. So this is a pretty basic install, and I just kind of wanted to go over the troubleshooting method. All right, so if that was good, then I'd walk down to the starter and see if it's seized up or something like that. Usually there could be an inline fuse on the way, and that'll trip if the starter is bound up. So like you could look at that as another component that's just not doing its job if it's blown. But as far as here goes, since I jumped it with the battery and it started up just fine, we're gonna say that's probably the culprit. Pretty easy removal installation. Take off the hold down bracket, unhook our terminals, and then we'll go get another one. So like I said, only 5 parts to any system. You got your power supply. You have your inputs. Your inputs are anything that you manipulate or power manipulates. It could be a starter solenoid like that as an input, or ignition is an input, right? That's something that changes state. And then our outputs are anything that does work, okay? Whether it be an actuator, a motor, a starter, the fan, right? They're all outputs, right? So if you, usually I start at the power slide, but if everything else is working, only one output works, then we're gonna do what's called output back troubleshooting, right? We're doing input forward, we would do output back. right? So what we do is just go to that output and start working our way back and find out what's in the system that gets the power to the output, which would be that starter solenoid, right? So we would start at the starter, check if that's getting power when we turn the ignition, right? And then we would walk it back. All right, now we're going to the starter solenoid, right? Is the power getting across? We could do something easy, like just put a jumper across the leads and see if the starter moves. If we jump it across the leads and the starter moves, then we know that contacts aren't closing when that solenoid closes, right? And then we would walk back to the ignition system. All right, is it sending power to that solenoid to tell it to change, right? So input forward, output back. Right, we can do a half split. So like say only part of the system works. Let's find somewhere halfway in the system and that eliminates the top half or the bottom half, and it's called isolation. So now that we know that the battery is the culprit or suspect the battery is culprit, what we'll do is we replace it with a known good, right? And then run the system and make sure it works. All right. I jumped it with a jump pack, so I know that it responds, the starter responds to a fully charged battery. So that kind of even verifies, right? Once we verify the fix, right, we're gonna make sure, hey, document it. When you're in maintenance, you know, the job's not done till the paperwork's done. So we'll document our fix. That way the person behind us can have the opportunity to, when they're troubleshooting something else, hey, we just replaced the battery on here, so say it goes down again, right? Maybe it's an intermittent solenoid. So since they know we just put a battery at it, they can eliminate that from their fault tree. That kind of thing. If you have questions, I do have PowerPoints and stuff like that on troubleshooting. That's your basic method, right? Right tool for the job. The meter told us one thing, saying that it was good, but the tool that puts a load on the battery and checks it, right, told us that the battery's bad. So, and like I said, these are all cheap tools. That the test light is pretty easy, pretty cheap, couple bucks, right? OK meter is probably 15 bucks. And then that Top Don battery tester is around $20. So it's nice to have all of them, right? I have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to tools. I've been pretty much buying tools for the last 30 years. Because when you can't buy the good stuff, you have to buy stuff, right? So, do like we're supposed to. We're gonna put everything back in the drawer where it goes. So there's where my meter goes. It's in my testing drawer. So hopefully everybody learned something today. If you didn't learn something, at least hopefully you enjoyed your time with me. And we will catch you on the next one. All right. Have a wonderful Saturday, and we'll see you next week.